say Mr. Nelson will present a new application of online data for CSO calculation and its consequences. So please.
Thank you. Yes, it works. My name is Gry, not Great Britain, as the paper says. And I work for a consulting company in Denmark called Wastewater Control. And we have made this paper together with the Danish Technical University and the municipal Hillerød, which is a small municipality north of Copenhagen. And the paper is about how we have used level measurements mostly in 50% of the catchment to calculate the combined sewer overflow. And there are also two models in the catchment, a dynamic model and a lumped model. And we are comparing data from these models with the measurements. The main messages of this paper is that rain is very unpredictable, and we've seen several times in this conference that we cannot use rain statistics from 10 years ago to predict what is happening 10 years ahead. And because the rain is very unpredictable, the spatial rain distribution, it is much better to use measurements in the sewers to calculate the combined sewer overflow than to use traditional models, because they have only a few rain gauges to base their calculations on. Also, we have made a method for calculating the rain-induced flow per rain event from pumping station measurements. And I'll show you that later. And then finally, it is necessary, because we don't have measurements everywhere in the catchment, to combine somehow the models with the measurements to get a valid combined sewer overflow calculations everywhere in the catchment. And this is the measured part of Hillerød catchment. This is mostly a gravity catchment with large basins with level measurements, and we have mostly concentrated on the three colored basins. One is on the wastewater treatment plant, that is the red one, and the other two are two very large overflow places. And here we have combined, compared the combined sewer overflow from models and measurements. And in the purple circles, we have looked at, I'll show you some examples of how we handle the data. And when we have to calculate the combined sewer overflow from level measurements, we get a lot of data from the SCADA system, which measure more than every second, and a lot of information we have to reduce. So we maybe use 2 minutes or 6 minutes data to calculate from. Then we compare the data or wash the data, and then see are these measurements true, and some periods we don't have data, to make the data valid. And then finally we make a soft calibration, because it is difficult to physically calibrate the level sensor correctly, and we have to look at the level over time to see. I will show you that in the next slide. And then finally we calculate the combined sewer overflow. And here in one point, at one basin, I'll show you the self-calibration. And the bottom curve is the level over the whole year 2005 at that basin. And we can see the edge of overflow is in 35.5 meters, and there's 3 potential overflows in 2005. And if we zoom into the overflows, we have the top curves that shows how we do the soft calibration, where we have to offset the level from the physical edge of overflow, and then we get the dotted line, because always if the overflow event, it will have a typical form that will end out and be a little flat, and then the pump will start, and it has a knee. And also the soft calibration can variate, and you can see that also in the last curve, where the sensor have been manually calibrated. So there can be difference in soft calibration. Yeah. In this point, we have some level measurements, and we have some calculations from the dynamic model. And this is an overflow point without a basin, so it's running directly into the river. And what we see mostly when we compare the dynamic model with the level measurement is that it has a pretty reasonable similarity, the two methods. But when the rainstorms get very heavy, the distribution, the spatial rain distribution, is normally very different from what the rain gauge says. So therefore, the model sometimes overestimate the flow, or often do that. But it shows a very good calibration with if it's a normal rain, normally. Then, as I told you before, in these three points, we've compared some combined sewer overflow measurements and calculations. And these are the most severe overflow points in the catchment system, or the measured catchment system in Hillerød. That's why we choose these. And the first one is for the three largest rain events in 2005. We have compared the combined sewer overflow, and that is the three rain events you also saw on the figure with the soft calibration. And it's difficult to say that there is some coincidence between what the models say about where are the combined sewer overflow and what the measurements say. And we cannot tell from these data if the lump model is better than the dynamic model. But if we compare the total, it will normally be more similar, the measured and the model values, because there is some amount of rain. It is the distribution that is a big problem. And also this will make it very difficult to control water, where it's going, if we use the model. That's why we use measurements. And we call this integrated online control, where we use measurements to combine both the wastewater treatment plant and the measurements in the sewer system. And this example shows how important it is that you use the right capacity of the wastewater treatment plant, because the purple column shows the capacity of the sewer system, the biological part of the wastewater treatment plant. And this will vary over the year, and normally it's not normal that you calibrate the model several times a year. So, and you can see what it will give of which combined sewer overflow it will give at the wastewater treatment plant in the green column. And it is a large amount that you can save by using the biology correctly. Yes. Then we have compared the yearly combined sewer overflow in 3 years. And this is the same points as before, the wastewater treatment plants and the two large basins. There is also 5 or 6 other outlet points which are smaller. But in total, the measured catchment is the line down there. And then we have the last value is if we take the total modeled catchment. So the measured catchment is varying from 35 to 55% of the catchment. And yeah, so we can see in the total that normally the model overestimates a little. So it says that there is a larger combined sewer overflow. This is the trend we see in Hillerød. And then we also, in 2005 and 2006, have looked at the capacity by comparing how much capacity is in the different basins. We can see that we can reduce the combined sewer overflow with 70 to 100% in this catchment, which is very much, just by controlling based on measurements. And that's again because of the rain distribution, spatial rain distribution. Then the question marks down here, it's because we have some parts of the catchments where we do not have level measurements, and we think in the future it is very important to combine this so we can make a better estimate of what will happen in the whole catchment. And we have a PhD about that after the summer. I'll tell you about that later. Then I talked about we have a method for calculating the rain flow per rain event from pumping stations, and we have I will show you an example from this pumping station K7. Here, the red line, the top red line, that is the total flow, and it is calculated from pump measurements from the capacity of the pump and the level measurements. You can make this flow calculation. And then there's a small orange line that shows the dry weather flow with infiltration and daily use. And if you subtract that from the total flow, you will get the rest flow, which is the green line. And then the difficult part is to say when is the beginning of a rain period and the end of a rain period. And from this we have developed a method, and I think patent is pending on this method for how to say how much volume is per event, and that is a blue line. And this, if you use this pump data, it has a much larger area, of course, than a rain gauge. So we think that this method is a good beginning if you want to have some better input to your model. Then I talked about a PhD we're going to have together with the Danish Technical University and Hillerød Municipality and another municipality. And the development principle for this PhD is to interpret all available online information from the sewer, pumping station and basin and wastewater treatment plant. Then the traditional model we will have to reduce and simplify these models so they will only cover the area with no measurements, and so they can be simple, adaptable, and interpret the measurements from pumping stations. Okay. And then finally we'll have to integrate these two methods somehow. That's the PhD. And the conclusion? It might be too expensive to maintain traditional models sufficiently in a dynamic world. And we think that integration of online information from treatment plant and sewer system in adaptive models may be the cheapest way to improve control and design in the future. That must be it.
So, thank you very much. Have time for questions, remarks. Yes, here.
Cesare Maximovic, Imperial College London. I was not quite sure if I understand whether you don't need that.
You look French.
I'm not going to speak French because you will not understand anything. You said the patent is pending for a method of measuring flow using this pump.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. I would suggest there are much, probably more modern methods where you can use much cheaper sensors and the wireless communications, and you can cover much wider area. But that thing we need to discuss.
Wireless communication, how?
You can, I mean, the conventional sensors are expensive and the telemetry is expensive. And to reduce the cost, you can use much cheaper sensors. We have some experience, especially with using combined sewer overflow. We have 2 or 3 years testing.
So measuring in the sewer system?
Measuring the sewer system and transforming data with the mobile telephone, and you can have more sensors for the cost of one, traditional one. But we can discuss this.
Yes, thank you.
So maybe you don't need a patent, maybe another one.
Yeah, okay. Good.
Thank you. You have other questions or comments? If not, I've a short question with your application. We heard a lot about uncertainties this morning or during the whole NOVATEC conference. And what could be the consequences of uncertainties in level measurement for your application, especially in a very flat catchment? If you have a small difference of a couple of millimeters, that's the usual range of uncertainties. What could be the consequences for the global management?
Of the consequences of using measurements?
Yeah, with some uncertainties in your measurements. Do you take also this point into account?
You mean if the measurements are not correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a problem if you compare it to the models, because the model input is so incorrect, because it only have these rain gauges. That doesn't say anything about the spatial rain distribution. But I don't know.
Okay.
We think these level measurements are very good, especially when they're self-calibrated to say exactly what is combined sewer overflow. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. And